most of us are exposed to sustainability. At a very basic level, what we are saying is that all the qualities that are given to us, right? The air quality, the water quality, and the resources that are given to us, we'll go to the next generation, right? My generation didn't do a good job. My hope is your generation will do a better job, right? And in that process, and we have a lot of this realization in the last 10 years. It wasn't like forever we had this realization. We do have roadblocks, we understand that. And we have a wonderful plan to discuss it. First of all, let me introduce Ms. Rolia Agarwal. She's a senior leader in 22 years of experience in partnerships, sales, marketing, and communications. She held various leadership roles across India, Singapore, and also global mandates. In her current role, she is heading product partnerships for Google in India and more specifically the Google Maps partnership startup. Roly has a deep understanding of the mobility industry and is passionate advocate for climate and sustainability. So please give a hand to we're extremely happy to have you. And Google does a lot. Like you might or might not realize it, that 1 minute of difference in 2 different routes saves crores and crores of rupees per day. Okay, so then let me call Mr. Anup Bhatt. He's a mechanical engineering graduate from regional REC Kurukshetra, which is NITs now, for those of you who don't know. He is currently leading powertrain and XEV development in engineering vertical. He has been associated with Maruti Suzuki Limited for the last 29 years. He has done a lot of interesting things. One of the things is the development of BS3, BS4 and BS6 compliant engines, which as you know has improved a lot in terms of the sustainability and the improvement of fuel efficiency of our engines. He is a member of SIAM Committee of Emissions and Conservation and actively participates in national and international regulation development for emission and fuel consumption. He is actively participated at Indian delegation in the development of World Harmonization Emission Test Procedure for light duty vehicles and WP29 activities of GRP at UN of Geneva. Okay. He is also active in SAE Northern India section activities and currently holds the position of Vice Chairman of Technical Committee. Anup is an ardent music enthusiast. So if you guys don't pay attention, we'll ask him to sing for us something or and play guitar. Okay. Besides participating occasionally in half marathons. I wonder how Maruti gives so much time. I think it's a good company to work for. Okay. Finally, let me also call upon Mr. Srinivas Naik Bhukia. He's a product manager at Namayatri. As a product manager in Namayatri, Mr. Srinivas leads open data, revenue generating products and multimodal initiatives. He spearheads the data team at Namayatri. His expertise spans across evolving product values, propositions and driving strategic data driven product development. He has worked in premier companies like Namayatri, MediaNet and Samsung, blending product management and software engineering skills across mobility, ad tech and consumer tech sectors. He is deeply interested in technology and creating products that scale to millions of users. Srinivas holds an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad and a BTech in Computer Science and Engineering from IIT Bombay. Okay. Welcome. Try to be as efficient as possible. But it is also interesting that we don't get this kind of panel generally. So it would be nice to know each of the thought process on what sustainability means. So first I'll start with Ms. Agarwal. What is Google's thinking in terms of sustainable mobility? And what role do you see for Google in influencing public behavior towards more sustainable transportation choices? Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Vijay. Before I answer that question, I just wanted to say thank you for having me here. I've tried to attend a few sessions since morning, and I must say what a great job the team here has really done in putting together such an interesting agenda. When I heard about this symposium being brought together, I thought this was the need of the hour. There's a lot of talk about AI and there's a lot of talk about technology and innovation, but data is just such a foundational piece that without that nothing works. So I'm really glad that we are putting the spotlight for once on data, which is such a great topic. When it comes to sustainable mobility, really, and our point of view and how we're trying to influence public behavior. From our perspective, our goal really has been to organize the real world information and make it easily available, right, to as many people as possible. And that presents so many opportunities when it comes to mapping. I want to keep it short, but you heard from some of the other speakers in the other sessions the role of location, right, and technology and all the interesting use cases that can get unlocked. So from our perspective, what that means is using technology and AI, we've been able to do some really cool things in India. And I want to refer to my notes so I don't get the numbers wrong. Yeah, so in the case of India, what we've managed to do is, of course, map millions of kilometers of urban and rural roads and more than 300 million buildings, powering over 2.5 billion kilometers of directions every single day. These are big numbers, right? Think about it, and this is people every day going, I'm saying directions, which seems really impersonal, but this is someone somewhere in a small town, trying to go from point A to point B. So there are billions of searches that are happening. We've got literally 50 million searches every day happening on Google search and 2.5 billion kilometers of directions every day. Are you all familiar with this app called Where Is My Train? Do you take train journeys? Anybody here? Show of hands. Yeah? Oh wow. See? Yeah, so the numbers prove it. Every month, more than 100 million people are using Where Is My Train as an app. Right? So that's really the power of technology and mapping. It's solving everyday needs. It's helping people, get their business done. And that is how we are influencing, public behavior.
Sort of the same question for Mr. Bhatt. What do you see as the role of Maruti and also other car companies in promoting sustainable transportation? So, what is your thought process in what sustainability means to you, right, as car companies, and what are the choices that you are doing to promote it?
Thanks, Vijay, Professor Vijay, and of course, I would agree with Ms. Agrawal. I think a fantastic. I came in the morning today, and fantastic day it has been on data, and I'm actually very proud. As Maruti, we are associated with it, so I think it's the right forum and to promote data. Coming to your question on sustainability, what is our thought on sustainability? I think we have our thoughts on three aspects. One is environment, where we talk about local pollution, and we also look at the global warming issues, the GHG issues which is there. We are also on safe, from environment perspective, from safety perspective, whether it's safety of the occupants or any other road user which is there. And third, of course, is about economy. All of us are in business, so we have to make sure that, as I think the previous speaker talked about, we talk about economy. We have an ambition of 2047, and attached to that ambition is also the ambition of the automotive industry, and automotive industry does bring in a lot of value to the whole economy. So that's the ambition, as far as the economy is concerned, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we work on the environment as well as on safety. Now, coming to what is it that we can do as car companies, or what as Maruti we are doing, is one is, of course, development of technology and development of technology which are affordable for customers and which make sense to the customers. Second aspect would be to create awareness about the technology, about the green, about safety part of the technology, and third, of course, is to push and nudge slowly the customers towards adopting these technologies. Here, I want to give an example which probably today is more relevant than it was in 2010 when we launched 5 vehicles together on CNG. At that time, CNG was perceived as a cheap fuel, and there were some people who were retrofitting their vehicles on CNG, but it was not perceived as a safe fuel, as a fuel which could be adopted by masses. It wasn't there. So it took a lot of effort, time, first of all, to develop the technology, to make it safe, to create awareness about the safety of this technology. and then push consumers. And today, I think it's a very successful technology. There is a lot of, and the consumers are saying that it's no longer a cheap fuel. It's like a regular fuel. You have gasoline, you have diesel, you have CNG. So it's just another option of energy source which is there. And in fact, today there are more CNG cars being sold than diesel cars. And in the last 4 or 5 months, you see this transition which is actually happening. So which is bringing a lot of benefit from an environmental perspective. So this would be a case for EVs for future. And how do you, I mean, CNG vehicles also come with a limited range, right? So 200, 250 kilometers. So there is this range anxiety which is already there. So this will be true for EVs also. I mean, how do we make sure that this anxiety we are able to handle for EVs to push the EVs into the market in the future? So yeah, that's what, I mean, 3 aspects about develop, about create awareness and nudge customers in that direction.
Thank you. I have some follow-up questions, but let me first get to Srinivas. So, Srinivas, how do you see Namayatri's role in transport sector decarbonization? Like we're talking about all this, right? So, where does Namayatri fit into this whole thing, and where you are thinking in terms of sustainability from the company perspective?
First of all, thank you for the opportunity. It's a pleasure sharing the stage with eminent people like you all, and the session as well on data. So I think data, especially at this point of time where we are standing as a country and as a whole, plays a very critical role in many fields. Not just mobility, but across. And if we can use this golden opportunity to really take it to next level in terms of usage of data, generation, usage, storage, that the entire pipeline of data, it'll have very long-term and sustainable impact. On Namayatri, we believe on, and we currently are into mobility business as a mobility provider where autos and cabs are what we are actually doing right now. But we are also planning to go to a multi-modal kind of a model where you can stitch auto, cab as a first mile, last mile to your entire trip, and put in legs of bus and metro as well. That way, we look at mobility problem not just as a problem from an auto or a auto rickshaw or a cab point of view, but it's a problem of moving people, things, anything from point A to point B as quickly and as sustainably as possible. So that is where we come in as Namayatri, and that is what we are focusing on. One of the major differentiators of Namayatri in the mobility space and from the perspective of sustainability is we plan for and aim for a long-term existence. When I'm saying this, it comes from different fundamentals which allow us to do that in terms of cost, being as low cost model as possible so that it helps in scale. And in terms of technology, we are open source, so you can see the code, you can contribute towards the code, the source code of Namayatri application. And in terms of data as well, we are open data. So at this point of time, in real time, you can all check out how many rides are happening on Namayatri, how many, what is the conversion of the entire Namayatri application. So that is what we believe in, a sustainable model where we will do our part, and we want even people to build together, come together and build an application which is affordable, scalable.
I didn't know that this was, anybody can contribute to your code. That's interesting. Just to follow up, because talking, and I don't want to follow the same order over and over again. So we keep hearing about ONDC and Namayatri. So what is the role ONDC plays in it? Like, and why does that use, like, are others also following it, or what gives you the edge when it comes to this?
Yeah, so ONDC, as you all might have known, it's more on digitalizing the e-commerce, the commerce into for India. So we, in a way to put it, ONDC has come up to empower buyers and sellers of any kind in the country. It connects buyers and sellers of any kind, be it mobility or retailing, any sort of buyers and sellers. So when you try to digitalize this, and you also want to give enough power to both buyers and sellers instead of platform holding the power, this is where ONDC comes to scale unbiased system and enabler, and a technology enabler for any buyer or seller to come on the platform and sell. When they are doing this, they follow a protocol which is open, where buyers and sellers can just connect like a plug and play without any bias. The platform kind of supports both sides of the platform. So with this protocol, which is beacon protocol, is what we at Nammayatri adopted and built the mobility side of the protocol. So it comes from brainchild of the founders of Aadhaar and Beam, Mr. Nandan Nilakani and Pramod Verma. So it is a technology which is which allows a democratic and open system where buyers and sellers, and not just from the commerce point of view, from mobility point of view, we can connect as a buyer, where I mean, like you can have an application which will only solve the demand side of the problem, an application which will bring various demand players onto the platform. Then there will be a gateway, and the other side of the platform is the seller platform, where different selling here, by selling I mean the supply providers like cab drivers, auto drivers, or other mobility solutions like metro, bus. Even these partners can come onto the platform and provide the service. A simple use case, we on Nammayatri, you can book metro tickets in Chennai and Kochi. So we are the buyer platform, and the seller platform talks to us via ONDC gateway. So this is where ONDC comes in, and how Nammayatri adopted this model to be scalable, open and usable with very minimal changes.
So that's good to hear. And when we talk about sustainability and the various roadblocks to sustainability, one of them always has been the data and availability. From your perspective, what do you feel are the key roadblocks still remaining for improving sustainability in the country? And what else do you think Google is trying to do in terms of, or what are the things that Google is trying to do to improve on it?
So one of the things that we've been all hearing about today is data, standardization, findability. I think was a word that's been used a lot. Discoverability, right? So those are, I think, all really big challenges. But before I talk about that, let me share a little bit about what are we doing in the country in this space. So we've been doing a lot of work with cities, with municipal corporations, with transit agencies, with traffic police, also with researchers and NGOs. And the objective here is to bring all kinds of modes of transport, right, online. Now, this would mean public transit, which means that if you want to go from point A to point B, besides showing you the best route, if you're driving, we'll also be able to show you buses, we'll be able to show you local trains, we'll be able to show you elsewhere in the world other forms of transport, right? And we've tried to do this with many, many cities in India, including showing real-time bus information, which is live in 4 cities in India today. However, I must say that we've come a long way in the last couple of years, and agencies are really starting to adopt technology, the ecosystem's improving, but there's more that can be done there. Particularly for public transit, I'd say the challenges I have come across personally working in this sector, it's really everything from hardware installation, and I'm speaking to a lot of people who work in this industry. something as simple as GPS installation on buses, right? Somehow we can't seem to get that right? And we are talking about AI, but we can't get like GPS installation right on a bus. Once that's done, how do you get that data into a format which is then discoverable, standardized? GTFS, is a standard that's used in many places around the world, but we don't have the same, as easily available here. So the role that we are also playing is we are trying to find partners to address this problem, in collaboration. We can, of course, as Google Maps, play a really large role in making this information discoverable and accessible, but that can only happen if the underlying data, which is not owned by us, right, which is really owned by the bus operators, exists, using that as an example. So I would invite, if any of you here have any ideas on how do we address this as a challenge and make more of public transit, which I think for our country is going to be a needle mover when it comes to sustainable mobility. If you have any ideas on how do we fix this big challenge, I'll be all ears. Please reach out to me. We're having a brainstorm, hopefully, after the panel as well.
See, one of the big challenges, honestly, that for all these things since I've been working in areas, we are very champion-driven, right? When you have good people at the top, you get data, do a lot of things, interesting things, but it's not process-driven. So we need to get it, but that is my 2 cents. So Anu, what are your thoughts in terms of like in your area, what kind of roadblocks that you are facing to do sustainable transportation, and what do you think is extra things that Indian government has to do in terms of either policies or other things to get to the same level where other countries are talking in terms of sustainability for the car industry?
It's a very heavy question, to be frank, and I think a lot has happened in the past about and on at least one front, which is about the first pillar, which I talked about, environment. What is it that, the regulations have actually driven a lot on for the industry, and today we have the BS6 regulation, which is now in the second phase. Hopefully in 27 we will get to the more stringent regulations, and contrary to usual belief that we were late in implementing, we are behind Europe by 4-5 years and so on. Actually, we are ahead of them in a different sense of the term. In Europe, when they implemented Euro 6, the car park was already maybe around 250 million vehicles on the road. And of course, you can get a penetration of vehicles which are there. But when we implemented in 2020, our vehicles were very few in numbers. In terms of number, it was maybe just around 30 million. So 1/8 of that. So we have implemented, even CAFE for that matter, we have implemented these regulations way ahead in our journey of motorization, which has actually given us a lot of dividends from an environment perspective. Imagine in 2030 in Delhi, compared to our 2015 scenario, you have 50% reduction in global pollution, just because of this intervention which is there. Similarly, there have been interventions which government has taken, for example, the CNG which I talked about. It is also because government did invest a lot. They pushed stakeholders to invest in terms of infrastructure. We have 6,000 stations for CNG today. There is an ambition to go to 10,000 in 25, 15,000 now in 2030. So to make it easier for consumers to switch to a gas-based economy. So these interventions have helped. These interventions have helped to improve the CO2 reduction from the industry as such. The other such intervention which is there is the fuel economy regulations. We have been improving on the efficiency. But the greatest improvement which can actually happen is not just by improving efficiency of vehicles. It is by energy transition. If we have to reach to our net zero goal of 2070, which is what we are currently working on, so what we realize is that efficiency alone is not going to get us there. So it is the energy transition which is going to get us there. So for that, the current thought that government has is, of course, is multi-energy path which is there, which Maruti is actually very, we're working on all the paths, to be very frank. So ethanol has become a great way of reducing carbon emissions. It's a carbon neutral fuel, and you can imagine that from one regulation to another, in a CAFE regulation, you do improvement by somewhere around 15% on a vehicle, and in one day, when we switched from E0 to an E10, we improved by 7%, one day, by 7%. In 25, we are going to improve by another 7% when India is going to switch to E20. So that's the impact that such energy transition can have. Same transition needs to happen in EV space also. So when we talk about EV, today most of our energy is actually coming from fossil fuels. I mean, I was reading an article today, I think it said that in last year, we have increased our carbon emissions footprint from energy by 9%, compared to a -5% for Europe or a -5% for Japan. So there is actually a reduction. It has not changed. Although we have an ambition of going to 500 gigawatts in the years to come, by 2030, but we have to be faster than that. So how do we use, or how do we get the energy to fund or to get us from here to Amrita? Because we have an ambition that 35 trillion will need a lot of energy, and how do we do that sustainably and use that even in our electric vehicles is a challenge. I would not say a roadblock, I would say a challenge which we have to deal with in the years to come. Similarly, I think we have to use data. I think this is a forum where data is being talked about. Rather than opinions, I think it's very important to look at the data and put facts on the table and then make decisions based on facts. And calibrate the decisions as we move from now to 2047, the Amritsar, and then beyond to 2070 in our ambition to become net zero. And whatever Mr. Modi has talked about, all of us are taking it very seriously. 2070 is in front of us. 2047 is a midterm plan for us, how to reduce our energy consumption and also how to shift to a more benign or better energy source.
So let me throw you a curveball here and ask you a tougher question, because you are talking about the 2070 and the net emissions. We also committed to 50% reduction in our safety, right? Road safety, the crashes that we have on the roads. And the first decade we didn't achieve, we are still increasing. Second decade we are increasing again. What do you see? And one of the sustainability things is also safety. From an automobile perspective, what do you see are the roadblocks in terms of, especially from a vehicle safety perspective, that we are unable to? Is it because we are very cost-conscious society that's the roadblock that we have, or are there any other roadblocks that we have in terms of improving the vehicle safeties that other countries seem to be having that we still don't seem to have?
I think it's an excellent question, although I'm not working on safety aspect, but something which is very close to me as well. Again, I'll come back to say that data is the key. We have to understand what is happening on the roads. Last year, the fatalities have actually increased. It has not reduced. Although the vehicles have become safer. You see all over the place, 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, all the vehicles are becoming even more safer. But if you look at the data, in Delhi, for example, when it came in the newspaper last week, that 90 or 95% of the unfortunate fatalities that have happened are the vulnerable road users, which is the two-wheeler and of course the pedestrian cyclists. 90%. You put whatever you can inside a vehicle, you put 6 airbags, 8 airbags, and all sorts of gadgets on the vehicle, ADAS and so on. It is not going to save a pedestrian or a two-wheeler or something. So we need to look at the issues that are there. Driver training is one of them. We are working very seriously on this aspect. how can we make even getting licenses, for following a certain process, driver training and retraining. In fact, it's also happening in Haryana. I had to get a driver license for a commercial vehicle to be very frank. So we were developing a commercial vehicle at some point of time. So I had to go to the driver training for many months and spend time in the classroom and learn, and then take a test and do it. So how can we make it, such that people don't get driver licenses so easily? Is one of the aspects. The other is definitely about road design, which I think Mr. Gadkari also referred to in the lastly there was a SAM convention where he referred that we need to work on the black spots, the dark spots. We need to look at how merging is happening. We need to look at these road design per se. How can we improve that? This is where data can really come in handy.
Just to follow up, as in but on the transitioning to new energy and all that, where is Google Maps and what are the things that you are doing in terms of EV vehicles and any new vehicle anything that Google is working on?
Yeah, so just staying true to, I think, the goal that I was describing earlier, one of the things that we are also noticing is that the adoption of EV vehicles is of course increasing, and if you look at the numbers, right, those numbers are looking really, really, what's the word I should use, like we're going to be using a lot of EV vehicles as a nation across modes. So what that means is we want to make it easy for people to find charging stations, right? There's a lot that's been talked about range anxiety and how that can be a deterrent for people to make that transition. So we want to help with that. We want to show you charging networks no matter where you are. And we've made a start already. So just a few months back, we've announced that we have partnered with 4 industry leaders. So the likes of Ather, Electric Pay, Kazam, and some others to show 8,000 EV charging stations. And this is pretty much the majority of what's organized right now in the country. But we will continue to scale, right? So as more and more charging stations come online, you should be able to see them on Google Maps. We are also going beyond static data to show you real-time availability. We're trying to show you plug types, right? So you're able to make that decision faster. Also, elsewhere in the world, if you were using a car that was powered by Android Auto, you'll have the same information of EV charging station available, right? So if you were planning, say, a multi-stop trip, the car system will also tell you what is the best route, right? Where is the best charging available for you? So it will all start coming together really seamlessly.
So coming back to Srinivas, from your perspective, in terms of the roadblocks that we're talking about, from the government perspective and from the public perspective, what are the various things that can be done to improve on sustainability?
Yeah, sure. So we are not we have an ambitious goal of coming up with a vehicle which is sustainable, but at this point of time we are not into that. We are actually trying to stitch different modes of transportation, like I was already saying, and on that front, how we want to enable or how we want to achieve that goal is to bring different modes of transportation, not just in terms of visibility, like what all is available for me to choose from if I want to make a ride from point A to point B, but also how to track once I am in that particular vehicle, and how to make a booking, how to make it very seamless and convenient. Because when we look at sustainability at this point of time, our lens is through multimodal trip stitching kind of a framework. In that front, I think there are challenges on getting the data in terms of where my bus or metro or a local train is, and what is some information, meta information about it, like when it's going to start from station A to and drop me at station B. What is the crowd and vacancy level of that particular vehicle? That kind of information, which allows a rider to plan a trip. Then once he gets into the trip, then there should be a tracking system very similar to Where Is My Train kind of an use case, which should be scaled not just for trains but also for buses, metro, suburban modes of transportation. And once I have this, the major blocker would be to make a booking. So if we have a system where we can have just one single QR to book the entire trip, say my first mile could be from my home to my nearby metro station, and then metro ticket to take me to a point in the journey where I'll get down, get to a bus, go to a nearest bus stop towards my office, and then take one last mile piece of say auto or a cab from that point to my office. If I can make a single booking and try to stitch all this with that booking, use that information, just one single QR to make my entire trip, then that is what we are envisioning and trying to build. So that is how we plan to do. There is some help coming from different government bodies because a good portion of bus, metro, suburban comes under local governments or operators like BMTC, BMRCL in Bangalore, where we would need some help in terms of giving us real-time or near real-time information, and also allowing us to show a UI where users can come and make the booking. So these are some challenges which we are trying to solve. We are getting a good help. It's more or less end of the day a big data problem to solve, but yeah, we are on it.
So he's trying to be politically correct, so it's fine. So let me ask, yeah, go on.
I wanted to just react a little bit to what's being said. So I think we are in a world where I think majority of you understand technology probably much better than I do. But there's one thing that I did want to reiterate, which is that technology is existing today to do a lot of what is being talked about. The challenge is again the connection between various ecosystems, systems really, right? So think of what he's just talking about. Each of those is possible to do in isolation today, right? You can probably find your bus somewhere. You can find a parking spot, right? There is this one app which will tell you this mode of transport. But how do you start connecting the dots between all of them to actually bring together that experience that is being talked about? And that again speaks to data connectedness, right? Now, what can we do as a part of this ecosystem to not have data sit in islands, right? Have interconnected systems and data. I think that's definitely something that also needs some deliberation and attention.
So just to get any final words that you want to say, especially from a roadblocks to sustainability and data policies, connected vehicle thought process.
My thoughts are very echo with whatever previous speakers' thoughts. I think India is different. Our challenges are different, and our opportunities are also different. So how do we use these opportunities well in our transition to or towards sustainability? Net zero is something for us to choose. If you give me a minute, I just want to paint a picture here about a town in India where there is this factory which produces is a distillery. It produces ethanol, and that ethanol is produced from the farm. You get corn, you get sugar cane, so it produces ethanol. And that ethanol is a carbon neutral fuel. It's already sequestered CO2 from the atmosphere, so you use it in the vehicles. So the CO2 which is coming out of the vehicles is actually already eaten up, so it's zero. Although CO2 is there, but it's not adding to the carbon emissions in the atmosphere. So so we produce ethanol, and there is also a lot of waste which comes out of say pressed mud. That pressed mud, there is a nearby plant which takes that pressed mud, does biodigesting and converts that into biomethane. Biomethane again is then used up in the vehicles, so it's not a carbon negative, not carbon neutral, it's a carbon negative. Had you left that waste, or there is a lot of waste which is already available, if you leave it as is, so it's going to convert to methane. India is second largest methane emitter. So when you talk about GHG, it's not just about CO2, it's about all the other GHG emissions. So we can handle this in a better fashion if we use up this so-called methane, which could go up into the atmosphere, but actually take it and put it in our vehicles. So you're not adding anything, you are actually taking out potential methane emission. So carbon negative. We did our, you can't, and that is used in a vehicle which is running nearby, and you don't need to really transport fuel across India. So I can't think of a better sustainable ecosystem than this, which is possible in India. To produce an ethanol in Europe or America is carbon intensive. To produce it in India is very low intensity. So these opportunities exist in India. So we have to take full advantage of these possibilities for our road to carbon neutrality or sustainability.
So
similarly for safety.
One of the interesting things after talking to you is that for a long time I haven't heard about CNG or ethanol, and most of the push for the last few years has been EVs and hydrogen as a future, right? And you are saying that for India it's an opportunity to do this. So are there any even the government is pushing EV more than anything else? So any reason why they're not pushing natural gas and CNG? Are there any roadblocks for that?
No, I think government is definitely pushing for EVs because they are, as far as tailpipe is concerned, it's zero. So in a curbside emission, there is no emission. And it is the future which is there. So all of us are investing. Government is also pushing so that we invest in this technology. But what do we do in the medium term? It is very important. And government is also pushing that. Government is pushing and making sure that the oil companies meet T20 target. They pulled back the target which was set for 2030 to 2025. So they're pushing. Government is pushing for bio-CNG. There are viability issues, but they are pushing. They are thinking how do we make it more viable for the people who are actually investing. There is an incentive today even for bio-CNG plants today. It is there. It may not be known generally, but this is available. And believe me, if we crunch data, or what we have seen, if we want to achieve carbon neutrality, we have to use this. Just by doing EV, we cannot. So we have to work on these multiple paths, EVs, we have to work on hybrids, we have to work on ethanol, we have to work on bio-CNG. Is an immense potential for us. India is huge. India can take up different technologies in different parts of the country. I think we have to understand this and use this. I think government understands, it's very clear. So that's why they are pushing on various fronts. So that's what we are also using, adapting, and hopefully we'll see more of this happening in the future.
Srinivas, you want to say any final words?
So for us at this point of time, in terms of data, when we look at sustainability and especially how the urbanization is happening in country, I think solving a multimodal problem or solving for a sustainable data generation storage problem will not only help a mobility provider like us, but will also help in urbanization. A simple example could be when we were researching about how to increase the adoption of multimodal trip takers in a city like Bangalore, not just from an affordability point of view, which is what generally we kind of perceive when we look at a bus or a train or a metro ride. We look at it from an affordability point of view. Someone is going to take that ride only because it's affordable, and that's the general perception. But how do we solve this problem for any goer, a premium traveler as well? When we look at that perspective, some of the interesting things which came out to us, an urbanization problem. So For example, Phoenix Market City Mall. There is a metro station which is around 500 meters of the mall. So if we solve for this kind of a urban planning problem where we can pick very good metro stations or bus stations which are quite popular and try to urbanize around it, then we'll see a good adoption of people who are not just looking from an affordability point of view, but also to beat the traffic, take a sustainable mode of transportation, and try to get to their destination via multimodal solution. So a rider who will generally take auto or cab ride for traveling from point A to point B might choose a multimodal kind of a model where there is metro to go to Phoenix Market City because there is a metro station nearby. So if we solve for multimodal problem and an urbanization problem, urban planning problem linked to it, I think there is a very good economies of scale which can be achieved. I will have you say a few words.
So I think when this topic of sustainable mobility came up, right? And it's being talked about a lot, but one of the things that I did want to say was that sustainable mobility means very different things in different parts of the world, right? And sometimes there is a bias to follow like a trend or a topic, right? It becomes like cool and everybody's talking about it. Because there are a lot of, I think, students here in the audience today, one of the things that I wanted to say is India's digitization story is really that of innovation but also resilience, right, and uniqueness. So I think the opportunity here for us is to think about what are the unique problems that we face, right, and how do we solve for that to build a more sustainable mobility and sustainable world for us. But one thing is really apparent is whatever we do here scales to the world, right? As a company, we've been doing that. From a Google perspective, we've done a lot of India-first launches that were built here. Think about a couple that were just recently launched, narrow roads, flyovers, two-wheeler modes, right? So we're taking inspiration from the opportunities and the complexities that this market presents really to build for the world, and I think that's really the opportunity for all of us here.
Thank you, all of you. Again, we are giving 10 minutes back. Just to conclude on what was said, and a few words from my side also, when we talk about sustainable transportation, the ones that we really talk about are walking, cycling and buses. Okay? Not even metro because it's not cost sustainable. So I just want, because a lot of non-transportation people are here, I just want to make that point. The other part is also sustainable cities are cities that are compact cities, that are walkable cities. And cities are for people, they're not really for vehicles, right? And when we start thinking that way, there are a lot of other roadblocks that come into picture, because if you see where we are able to walk and all. The points that are made here that you should take away from here is, Anup is talking about from a car's perspective, there are multiple modes of specific to India, the different types of fuel options that can make cars, because we haven't hit the aspirations in India. So it's not like we can say, hey, let's somehow get rid of the cars, because people would like to buy the cars, right? What Srinivas is talking about is the multimodal part, the mobility as a service, right? And journey planning that happens to it, the shared mobility rather than the private mobility that comes into it. And from Rolly's perspective, it is a combination of all this and what Google is doing from that, where the information is available to you, right? And the point that she's again making is, hey, data is available, we can make it available to the people. And once that is available, we see that people are making smarter decisions, right? Again, please give a big hand for our panelists.